sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. 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 I think it looks better when filming, but then during editing and uploading, it makes it look a little worse. So that's not good. That's not good. But yeah, super rainy lately. It's made me feel a little lazy because it makes
she was wicked, it came out to the same thing in the end. First, she snapped at the girls, demanding they stay close to her. Then she pushed them away, slapping at them in the slightest provocation, carrying scissors in her pocket to cut off banks of their long hair. When she left the house, she locked them up to keep them from misbehaving, she said. But she kept them in their mother's room, where the windows were warped shut, and the stand on the floor taunted Anya like a vile black mouth. Their mother's bed had been chopped into firewood after disappearance. All the pretty objects she'd surround herself with, sold or locked away. asked her, shaking his head. Finally, he pulled the curtains closed. Anya waited in the garden, in her dress of color, the will-o-wisp. When she lowered her arm, she stood in a place of rotting boars and bone. When she raised the stone back to her eye, she could see the soft grass and the brief starlight of fireflies. She could see the boy walking toward her, his step tentative but his face eager. You may ask me one question, she told him, but it has to be the right one. Who are you? He asked. Anya said nothing. Why can't they see you? He pleaded. She stayed silent. You are very beautiful, he whispered, reaching out to touch her. Why do you hold your hand so high? Anya smiled at him, the way she'd once seen her stepmother smile at her father. She let him bend close to her mouth, closer before dropping her arm and returning to the dead garden. It took her father's son many nighttime meetings to ask the right question. By then his eyes were hollow with sleeplessness, and he looked at her with a love-like hunger. How can I get you to stay? He asked at last. She smiled and put her mouth to his ear. She told him